What we're doing now, we're not allowed to do.
This piece of paper interested me so much. It was actually a secret document. 2025 marks 50 years of Vietnam gaining back its independence. As 50-somethings ourselves, we're fascinated to see what Vietnam has made of itself. So in this series, we are going to present authentic Vietnam, just exactly as we find it. And what better place to start than at the Independence Palace? Hi, I'm Justine.
And I'm Darryl.
And we're the Breakaway Braveheart. And today we're in Ho Chi Minh City. This is Darryl's first time in Vietnam. It's his second day only in the country.
For 24 hours that I've been here, I've felt very, very welcome.
So this building has seen a lot of change, and it's kind of representative of exactly what Vietnam has gone through with trying to keep out colonization and trying to maintain their own independence, which is exactly why it's called Independence Palace.
Basically, when the French decided to build this, they were in power and it was their way of representing their power within Vietnam, until such times as they lost the power.
And Vietnam was divided in half, and this became the base of the South Vietnam government. Then the Americans still were here trying to regain all of Vietnam. This place was specifically where a lot of things happened.
It's amazing how you look at the shape of the building and you might just think it's a building, but in fact someone else had a bigger idea than that. It says here that it symbolizes the mystical triad of humanity, wisdom, and the firmness of purpose. So how good is that? This is really the equivalent to the White House. So it's quite amazing to be able to actually visit such a significant place. And although there's tourism, it's not overbearing. You've got lots of space, you can do it in your own time. 1,000 meters. Is the helicopter thing right above the stairwell?
Yeah.
This actually is very significant. There was an internal spy here and he was told to bomb the place in which he was working in. It was on the helicopter pad, which these stairs lead to. They've actually demonstrated where those bombs actually landed. 2 bombs at the right target here. So as you can see, it kind of cut off the whole area where the helicopter would normally land. Had he not hit this building, then you may not have had the Americans actually leaving this place. It was that hit that instigated the Americans to make the decision to evacuate from here. And to hear it from the spy's own opinion was really pretty cool about this, I reckon. So I loved it.
One of the things that I love about this place is that you can be in rooms where super important people made really important decisions that impacted on the lives of the little people around them. And the rooms we've just been through are where people like Henry Kissinger met with President Thieu of the South Vietnamese government and made life or death decisions around the continuation or not of the war. So for example, in these 2 rooms was where Kissinger tried to persuade to sign an agreement to end the war, and the president of South Vietnam, President Thieu, decided no. They said no, we refuse to end the war. Kissinger went back to President Ford in the US, and Ford decided we can't continue anymore, and made an agreement with the North Vietnamese and pulled out the American troops anyway. You'd be standing here watching those tanks roll in. Or actually by then you'd be...
Well, they'd be up on the roof,
desperately shredding all the paperwork you can find.
Yes.
Scrambling to get up to the roof where the helicopters are waiting.
Absolutely.
And thinking about how are you going to tell your Vietnamese secretary, your Vietnamese assistant that you've been working with for years and grown fond of, that they're not coming on those helicopters.
Wasn't it these gates where there were actual people who had served the Americas and simply were not allowed past those gates?
Correct, yeah.
But you can just imagine now the desperation of those people wanting to try and get through and into here while they're frantically inside this building. They're trying to get evacuated as soon as possible, waiting for those Hueys. Oh, look, there's a Huey up there still. When you go into the thing there, you will be able to see from the balcony the road on which these tanks came down, and it tells you a little bit of a story.
So there's 2 tanks here, and one is number 843, and that was the first one that tried to get through the gates, but he got stuck, he couldn't get through. But the second one, number 390, it got all the way through. And his tank rolled up and stopped just there. And then the driver of the first tank got out with his mate, and they came up here to the flagpole and they raised the flag, showing that they had taken the palace.
But here they are standing here, a reminder of what that day meant. And I find that really cool.
So President Thieu had his own cinema and loved to watch martial arts movies and to chill out in the evenings after a busy day's work commanding the war. So this is the First Lady's reception room, where she would entertain the other ladies that had come along as the partners of their presidential or government official husbands. And so it's supposed to have a soft feminine look, while at the same time representing both Asian influence and modern art of the Western world.
No, that can't be right now. No, the arrow's going that way. I've managed to get us lost again. There is a plethora of stairwells. For wheelchair users, there is a lift and full accessibility. So the bunker, number 19.
This room is where was the command center for when they were coordinating. So it's got all the maps around it, and then this piece of paper interested me so much. It was actually a secret document that talks about how many troops were being supplied at any particular time from the Allies. And this is Australia, and here's New Zealand. So we had 523 contributing. The biggest number, of course, from the US, almost over 500,000. The rooms are so stark and empty right now, but you can imagine the buzz and the intensity. Some people would be stressed and feeling anxious, others in their element as they coordinated what they'd been waiting for so long. Others thinking about their families back home, or stressing over troops that they are responsible for. Phones buzzing constantly, typewriters clicking, papers shuffled about.
Imagine this, the radio receiving room. Wow. So we're standing amongst this now, and this was the top of the range equipment that was provided by the Americans to the Saigon government in the 1960s. Look at it, amazing.
The size of the equipment, I'm guessing these days they just coordinate it all on their mobile phones. So this hallway used to buzz with messages running back and forth, sending communications, and a hive of activity and panic. During the height of the craziness, this is where the president would sleep so he could be safe and at the ready. There are 2 telephones. The white one there, that's an emergency one. If that one rings, he knows he's in trouble. And this is his war room.
So as you can see, many, many maps. So number 2 is the military situation in the south. And then number 5, which of course would be the one nearest to him, which would make absolute sense, is the position of the US forces and their allies.
I find it hard to imagine what must be going through a person's head when they're in charge of war efforts, sitting in a room like this, messages coming in back and forth, hubble and bubble around them, and trying to make clear decisions. I'm guessing they have to compartmentalize, put aside their families, trying to empathize and understand that these are real people here, but also thinking about it in a strategic, clinical way. Do you have the luxury of thinking about those individuals? Or do you have to focus on numbers, maps, figures in an analytical way and distance yourself?
This is an American-built Northrop F5. It's got a bomb payload, as you can see underneath the wings. Basically, the Southern Army used these fighters for aerial combat as well as ground and sea bombing. So we've noticed this with the Huey and with this particular aeroplane, that the original sign seems to have like a black cross through it. So if anyone of our viewers knows anything about that, please make a comment. We're there, and we've got to walk down there and then round.
Okay.
Okay, so it's somewhere in that direction.
Okay, so not this way.
From him and you go this way.
Ah, you're very kind. Thank you very much. It appears I followed a sign that took me in the direction of, but we are kind of blocked by a motorbike park at the same time. So kindly, the security officer led us through this way.
As you notice, it's running out of footpath, my darling.
It's absolutely fine. I'm going to go on there in just a minute. Interesting. It does say keep off the grass. So I'm getting off the grass now. Oh dear. I don't know, these damn tourists who don't get it right. Must be ever so annoying. It's regulations. Yeah, I think photos are allowed. It says film and audio, so what we're doing now, we're not allowed to do.
Okay. So we've just been through the gallery. We couldn't record it for you in video, but we did want to tell you about it because I think it's a really important part of the palace as a whole. It tells a lot of stories, their personal stories of Vietnamese people from pre-French colonial time right through to independence. One story I really loved was the story of Suong Nuet An, and she's one of the pioneer gender equality heroes of the nation. But what I loved about the stories, they weren't trying to tell you how to think about this situation, they're just presenting the situation, the facts of the events and the actual words of the people. So we couldn't film inside the souvenir shop, but it's pretty much an ordinary souvenir shop. It's got everything you can imagine, keychains, fridge magnets, spoons, that sort of stuff, and a lot of tanks and helicopters. But we were most pleased to see that a lot of stuff was actually made in Vietnam, so the money's going back to local businesses.
Really nice. It's been a pleasant day. I have to admit, they've got like 34 different points to go through there, so it can be quite grueling, especially there's a lot of information. There are a couple of cafes on site, lots of toilets, facilities as well.
So we've loved our afternoon in the Independence Palace.
I didn't expect it to be so long, but as I said before, there was like 34 just individual stops within the Independence Palace itself. It depends on how long you want to give something, but we like to really immerse ourselves into the history and learn everything, and it was just so comprehensive that yeah, that's why we've been here so long. And now coming to the tail end of the day already.
We thoroughly recommend the audio guide. It was an extra, about the equivalent of £4.50, well worth it. So much more information than what was provided on the plaques.
Absolutely engaging, yes. I mean, you got the individual stories, you got the sound effects sometimes, that sort of thing, so yeah.
There are also guided tours. We saw a few while we were there, and they seem to be in multiple languages. It is a popular tourist destination. This isn't one of your hidden gems. But it wasn't overcrowded when we were there. We felt pretty comfortable just wandering around.
Absolutely, we still got our own space, didn't we?
We're here in mid-November and the weather is very warm, not overly hot, but it's definitely not cold.
And this is just day one. So day one, slightly jet lagged, but we're here for you guys.
And we're happy.
Absolutely.
So make sure you hit subscribe and the notifications bell so you can see where we end up next. Until then, happy travels everyone.